Here I'm looking at a kind of a steep bank right there that might make a snow cave shelter for today if I want to spend the night. One thing that I like to do is when I'm out snowshoeing is always look around for places that might make a shelter for the night. Say I get stranded, it's always better to find something that you like, walk a couple hundred yards, find out that hey you got to spend the night. Then instead of walking 2 or 3 or even a mile ahead of you, you know that just 100 yards back or half a mile back is an ideal spot that you've already looked at. So it's always better to go back. One of the things I like to do is when I'm looking for possible overnight site is making sure there's enough wood around to start a fire, protection from the wind, um, availability of snow so I can melt for water. And when you build a snow shelter, if it works, it's always better to have your door on the windward side so that if you do get a heavy wind during the night and it starts to blow over, it won't trap you inside your shelter. So once you block it up, then at least you're going to keep your doorway open so you can get out in the morning. So I'm going to go ahead and look at this site just a little bit, test it with my ski pole, see if it's deep enough snow, if the snow's settled. It's early in the year. We don't have a lot of base, but it might work out to go ahead and work on a snow shelter here. Dig one out. We got plenty of time today. We're out exercising, working on some skills. So we're going to take a little chance here and see if this opportunity is going to work. If it doesn't, we just move on to the next area while we're out snowshoeing today. So we're about this deep on our snow. It might work. We may have to pack it in a little bit with our snowshoes in order to compact the snow so it's going to stay. So what I'll probably do is kind of walk around up here just a little bit, pack the snow down, and then that'll form those ice crystals and stuff to keep it from caving in. But you don't want to just dig into this this early in the year because the snow has not had a chance to crystallize and pack. So I'm going to go ahead and just walk this around a little bit, pack it in, and this will be the start to see if this is going to work for a snow shelter. Okay, so what I'm seeing here is I'm up against the bank there. There's no way I'm going to be able to shovel into it. But because I do have this little depression here, what I'm going to do, we're going to just shovel snow over the top of this and then pack it down. So we'll just increase the snow depth by going ahead and just shoveling it in. I'm piling snow up here. I've got kind of a ravine here where the creek has kind of washed this out. So I'm going to be able to dig into this. So one of the things that's important to remember when you're working out in really cold weather is that if you stay bundled up, you're going to sweat because I've got quite a few layers on here of polypropylene, so I stay warm. I stayed away from cotton and all my underclothes. But if you don't strip down, you're going to sweat, and then sweat is just going to increase moisture into your body. It's good to wear clothing that'll wick it away from it, which I have on. But you want to dress down, take off the layers, work on your shelter to get to where you want to. You can slow down, stop, pace yourself, rehydrate as much as possible. It's always important to rehydrate, especially in the wintertime, because we don't see ourselves perspiring that much. And yet you are, because it's so dry here in Wyoming. So again, I want to strip down, take my time, slow down. I got plenty of daylight today to work into it. I'm using an avalanche pole. This tells me the depth of my snow. I'm down to the bottom. So this avalanche pole here is great because I can see what kind of depth of snow I have. And these break down very small in the poles, and they'll slide inside your shovel. So if you pack your shovel, you'll have your avalanche pole. This is what they help search for victims also with an avalanches. So I'm going to keep working on this, try and pace myself as much as possible, and so I get the snow packed down where the crystals start to bond with each other. So I've got this all packed in. I've got this all packed in now. I've got the snow crystals so that they're sliding together. It's really not a matter of packing the snow as it is locking those ice crystals together. Even in dry snow, it will lock together. And that's what happens. What makes drifts is the snow crystals locking together that keeps it from sliding apart. So pretty solid here with it, the snow. So now I'm going to go ahead and dig in. I'm just right above the ground here. So I'm going to start digging out now. What I'm not going to do is try and tunnel in and push snow out. What happens when you do that, you try and make a small hole. There's no room to move around in there, and I'm going to end up with snow down my back. I'm going to get cold and wet, and it's a lot of work. So I've got to minimize my movement. So I'm going to dig into this and make it look kind of like a garage, okay? But I'll keep my big chunks out to the side, and once I dig into it, and you'll see as I work on this shelter, I'll set those aside and I'll build my wall back up. So I'm just going to tunnel into here right now and build almost a garage type shelter. Okay, what I've done is we don't have a lot of snow this early in the year. So, and I'm up against dirt already in the back there. So rather than keep trying to build up the snow on top and digging it out, I'm going to go ahead and just take these pine branches and lay them on top here. And then I'm going to go ahead and cover it with pine boughs, and then I'll pile snow on top of that. But I've also created a low area here. I've lengthened my bed out, and I've got to go cut some pine boughs that'll lay on the ground to keep me up off the snow and help insulate me. But having this low area again, the cold air will go down into this low spot where I'm standing and keep it much warmer up on top up there in the snow. So this will work out great using these pine branches. So I'm going to go ahead and go cut a bunch of pine boughs and start laying those on here, and then we'll pile snow on top of that. So I want to go ahead and get some of these lodgepole pine boughs to put on the floor to insulate me from the cold, and I'm going to also use them to cover up my shelter. you got to be a little careful when you're cutting these. You don't get a big snow load down on your head, which is reminds me of Jeremiah Johnson in the movie The Mountain Man when the big snow fell on his head. The old trapper goes, "Yep, saw it right off." I like to lay all these up with the butt up and the needles coming down. It makes it just a little more comfortable. They tend to lock into each other a little better also. So this is a little faster way to construct a shelter instead of just out of snow, is take advantage of your materials that are around you. Don't make a huge effort to go wander hundreds of yards away. When you select your shelter, look around you again for materials that are close to you so that you don't expend a lot of energy going to look for them. So I've got close to, pine boughs around here that I need. I've got dry pine branches. The neat thing about lodgepole is that it's a self-pruning tree, which means that as the tree gets older, the branches underneath nearest the ground die off. And even in wet weather, this provides a great source of firewood, especially kindling, like this stuff here that I cut. And basically it just broke off. I didn't have to cut any of it underneath the inside of the lodgepole. So that's one advantage of being in northern forest, is the excessive dry wood. Even in pouring rain, you can still find dry wood underneath the lodgepole, spruce, pine, etc. When you're chopping these branches, again, if you go at an angle, of course it's cold out, so they snap rather easily. So one or two whacks and you're off of them. I don't need to get clear inside the tree. What I did also is try and knock as much snow off the branches before I got up underneath here, so I don't have a lot of snow coming up underneath of me. But you can do a lot of branches pretty quick if you've got a good heavy knife, and that's why I like this Ka-Bar knife, is that it's got a full tang on the back of it. It's a heavy blade, so it's got some weight to it so that I can chop. So now I'm going to go ahead and just pile snow up on top up here. I'm going to try and get maybe the larger chunks that I packed down already, because it'll fill a lot of my bigger holes in between the branches. Whereas if I just put powdered snow on them, it's just going to filter down through. So we've walked on the snow enough here that I can get these bigger layers or chunks of snow, which is going to kind of make my roof thin. Once it continues to snow, then it's just going to coat this whole thing with more insulation. But you can see I'm already down to the ground. That's how little snow that we had this early in the year. We're going to see another 5 or 6 feet of snow over the top of this. So I can come back to this if I want to set out a trap line, come out here, just spend some time out here in the wilderness. This is a great place to do it, and I've already got me a shelter that's going to last until springtime. As we keep piling onto this and the snow drifts over it, it's going to keep locking those crystals together, and so it's going to form even more structure. So even if a snow machine drove over the top of this, which is more than likely, it's not going to collapse my structure. So this is going to be here all spring, because again, once that snow goes over and starts drifting, working together, locks those snow crystals. So I'm going to go ahead and just dig this down a little lower, to give a lower platform for the cold air to go down. What I want to do here probably is just go ahead and probably just put some more pine branches on the side rather than build it up with snow, because again, I don't have big chunks of it. And that's going to give me a small enough closure that I can pull the branches across it, put my backpack in there, and allow me then to have a cold or a warm shelter for the night. I'll add more pine branches, pine boughs in there to sit on so it's good and high up off the ground also. But we're looking really pretty good. I've taken my shelter and almost doubled it, the size of it, by just bringing pine branches out, piling snow on top of it. I think what's most important is not having any expectations when you come out here. I was hoping I had good snow. I was hoping I had enough snow drifts that I could dig into. It didn't happen that way. So what I had to do is I had to adapt to what I had to the conditions that I was presented with. That's part of surviving. Being adaptable with no expectations. Have a lot of hope that things work out for you, but don't expect anything. There's nothing in this world that's given to you. You got to work for it. You got to learn to adapt. Now that we're done most of our shelter complete, it's time to sit down, take a rest, put your clothes back on, your layer. You want to layer back up again. Most of any of the perspiration, sweat that I've had, I've gone ahead and let it dry out quite a bit. You know, that's the beauty of Wyoming, is it's so dry here that we have very low humidity, so the snow is very dry. We don't get really wet for the most part, and so that makes it really nice when you're layering up with different clothes to stay warmer, because the snow just basically powders off of you. One thing you might have noticed on my jacket here, almost all my zippers, I carry a little LED light on here, and so it makes a nice zipper pull to go up and down, and it still allows me to have a light at night if I need to. So I think that's a great survival trick, is take your coat, your winter coats, summer coats, hunting coats, put one of these little LED lights on it for your zippers. You got mittens on, easy to pull. So I want to layer back up again. I really like this coat here because of the air pockets in it. Allows good insulation. And now I'm going to go ahead and put a weatherproof shell on the outside, which helps me then, if it starts snowing really heavy, I've got some type of protection from rain or heavy snow that might happen at any time here. So the layering system that I use works well for me. That's something you have to figure out what's going to work for you in the area where you live. One of my favorite cook pots or fire starter are these little solo stoves, because I can use a lot of the wood that I have available with it. And then what I'll use is some of these just cotton face pads, and I could use Vaseline, but I like the cotton. And another thing I carry in my pack are just these hand sanitizers. So I'll squirt just a little bit of that in there, and then all it's going to do to require and that'll start burning right away. Even if it's wet, that'll start a fire. I don't have to worry about waterproof matches. How these work is the air comes up on the outside of here, and that's what helps create the draft to make these burn really efficiently. You know, one of the things that I carry with me, besides several just pair of gloves, you know, to work around camp with, is I'll carry a pair of mittens. These just happen to be a pair of World War II mittens. But I tied some paracord around it that just hang around my neck so I don't lose them. But before I started, one of the things that I did at the vehicle right away was open up some hand warmers and get the oxygen so they were working, and then just drop them into my gloves. Even if I don't need them during the day until I get back to the vehicle, I know they're still going to be there, but if I need to warm my hands up relatively quickly, these hand warmers are already warm inside these mittens, and they're going to warm me up a lot faster. So as inexpensive as the hand warmers are, you're much better off to go ahead and just open them up, put them back in the foil pack. If you've got a foil pack, put it in your pocket. That'll help them stay warmer longer. And then if your fingers get cold, the tips of your finger, your shoes, the packs have already warmed up because they last for, for 8 hours or more. And I can feel already how warm these are in my mittens. So I can put them, down along my ears if I needed to. If I was really cold sleeping, you put them down near your femoral artery, put them inside your arm. But this is great. These are already warm. Keep my gloves warm. Another use of these, when I get back to the house, and instead of throwing these away, I keep them because they're deficit packets also. So if I have any electronic equipment or firearms that I need to keep the moisture away, I just break these up, throw them inside any of those packages, and they make great deficit packets. So another little tip there for winter survival is open them up right away when you start, and then go ahead and have them warm. And so while I'm waiting for my fire to burn down, put my hands inside my gloves, they stay nice and warm until my fire's ready to start heating me up some water for some tea. One of the things I also like to carry in my pack with me is I like to keep water in metal containers. And that way if it does freeze on me, I can always put it over the fire, loosen the top of the lid, suspend it, but I can heat up my water inside these metal containers, which is more difficult to do in plastic. You can, but I like this idea. You have to be careful, these are inexpensive water bottles. If you do leave your water in overnight, and it does freeze pretty solid, they're just going to split. But being inexpensive, you just get another one. But again, I like metal containers in the winter so that I can put it over the fire, heat it up. Even if I had to, if it was dry enough, I could actually use some cotton clothing if I was wearing, say during the fall, if I'm hunting, I need to start a fire. I could put cotton in there, open the lid, put maybe a rock on top, and I could actually make char cloth in a container like this, a metal container. And that would allow me to get a fire started with my striker. In my cook container here, some of the things that I carry all the time in it is a packet of hot tea, hot drink mix, and then I carry coffee filters, which fits in there. So if I have to strain water from a muddy source, I can use the coffee filters to strain my water and then go ahead and use my water filter, and it won't plug up as much. But they take up very little room, and it works out really well for inside your pack. Some of the things I like to put, to warm up is emergency. I'll mix that in with a packet and then throw just some tea in with it to make a nice hot drink to warm up. One of the things you want to do before you go to bed at night is, if you build a big fire up, is to go ahead and drink a lot of hot fluids to get inside your body to keep you warm at night. And you can also heat up enough water to fill up a water bottle and put that in the shelter or sleeping bag with you also to help keep you warm. So lots of ways to keep warm, hot rocks, etc. But this is just a good way to mix up a nice hot drink. Let that cook a little longer and we'll have a nice warm drink. Alright, ready for a hot drink.